Hello and welcome back to Project 380. In this video I'm installing some ARP wheel studs to the front of the MX5. So ever since I changed the design of the front wheels and upgraded the front brakes, I'm having a few fitment issues. These are my temporary wheels that I just used to move the car. They are absolutely fine, but I don't want to be running them. They are my just in case wheels. The issue I'm having with the rear of my new wheels is the spoke design. As you can see right here, it kicks up and that is the part hitting the caliper. Now usually that wouldn't be a problem, but because I've upgraded to the wheelwood brakes, the front caliper is a lot thicker than the standard one, and as you can see, it's hitting just here. So because of that, I need to fit a 6mm spacer. Hopefully installing this to the front hubs is going to bring that wheel just out far enough to clear the calipers. But because this spacer is 6mm, that's now giving us 6mm less thread on the front wheel studs. So to make this safe and as strong as possible, I want to change those wheel studs to the ARP extended ones. This is going to give us plenty of thread on them front studs and make this nice and safe. So to install these, we want to get the car up and on some axle stands and remove the wheel, which I've already done, and then remove the front brakes. This obviously is a little bit different for me as I've got the wheelwoods, so I'm going to whip them off real quick. With that all out of the way, we now want to get the studs out of this hub. There's a few ways to do this, and the easiest way is with a hammer. If you are going to use a hammer, just be careful. You don't want to catch this center hub at all. You want to keep that nice and round so the disc sits on there nicely. You obviously don't want to put too much force in it to bend this hub. So just be really careful. I probably wouldn't use heat on this as you don't want to destroy that bearing. So the easiest way would be a hammer. Because this is a nice new front hub, these are new studs, and I would like to keep these just in case I have a problem with the Mark 1, I can use them. So I'm going to first wind on a sacrificial nut. That should stop the end of this stud mushrooming over and hopefully be usable once it's out of the hub. Because I'm using the Destroyer Die front knuckles, I haven't got a dust shield here, but if you have got a dust shield, just rotate the hub in the position where this stud has got enough room behind it to get out. Once that's in a nice position, we can simply tap the stud out. That stud took no damage at all and perfectly usable again. With the old studs out of the way, we are ready for the new ones. And just be aware when you're buying the ARP studs, there are a few different variations. So this is a Mark II, and I've picked the version that is for the front only for a 94 onwards. Between 89 and 93, they are all the same, front and rear. But after that, I believe the backs are slightly bigger. And I'm only fitting the fronts today, so we've got a set of fronts. A quick look at the old studs against the new studs. As you can see, the ARP ones are a lot longer. You could safely fit up to a 20mm spacer with these extended wheel studs, and these also have the benefit of a nice rounded end. That will help you get a wheel nut on and off really quickly with less chance of cross-threading the wheel nut. So when installing these, they go in the back of the hub, like so. We don't want to hit them in with a hammer because you may damage something else around it, and it might not go in quite straight. And winding a bolt on and gunning that in is probably going to damage something, so that's not a good idea. So I am going to be using a stud installation tool. The face that sits against the hub is a nice bearing, so that's going to help the tool spin and not damage the face of the hub. And it's tapered here to fit a wheel bolt in. So we can slide that on the stud, and then I'm going to get a sacrificial wheel nut, wind that on the new stud, and then I can use a gun on that wheel nut until the stud meets the back of the hub. Okay, not going well. Full disclosure, I've found a problem. The wheel hubs that I have put on this Mark II are aftermarket wheel hubs, and they're made by Blueprint. And because they're aftermarket, there are a few differences from the OEM ones. These OEM studs have got a knurl on the end. That is how they secure into that hub. And the knurl on these Blueprint ones are actually a lot smaller than OEM. So this is a genuine Mazda hub, and these are the Blueprint studs. And they fall straight in there, so the Blueprint hub won't work. I've also found that an NK bearing is also smaller studs, the same with an SNR hub. So I don't know what other hubs actually have the right size holes in them already. Obviously a genuine Mazda one does have the right size. I'm going to have to do a little bit more research first and to find which ones actually work. But obviously I'm in a little bit of a rush and I want to get the car back on the ground so that engine can come out, and I've done something that is probably not advisable. So I've taken my blueprint hubs to a friend of mine with a machine shop, and he's drilled and reamed these hub holes out to 12.8, which is the perfect fitment for these ARP extended studs. So I've just got to get this hub back on the car and try again. If for whatever reason you want to go down the route of drilling your own hubs out, I'd highly advise you not to. Get them drilled out properly. I know the OEM bearings are quite expensive compared to the blueprint ones, but if you do think you're going to drill these out by yourself, I would advise you not to. The problem with drilling these out by hand is you can't guarantee that that drill is completely straight or in the right position, as a little bit out and your wheel just won't fit anymore. So these really need to be set up nice and parallel on a machine, drilled directly in the right place and at the right angle, and to the exact right size. All a bit hard to achieve with a hand drill. Get it done right and get it done safe. With the drilled hub all back on, let's try that again. You'll know when the stud is all the way in, that'll sound slightly different and it's buttered right up against the back of the hub. But as we can see, the extended stud is a fair bit longer. Just another 3 to go. That is all 4 ARP extended wheel studs put into that hub. Nice, safe and secure. All I've got to do now is put the braking system back on and install the spacer. I'm first going to clean down the face of this hub, make sure there's no contaminants on it. I'm going to apply a very small bit of copper slip. That's hopefully going to stop that brake disc seizing to the hub. Put the disc back on. And then make sure the disc surface is nice and clean. I'm going to apply a small bit of copper slip just around the centre. This should hopefully stop this spacer seizing to the disc. Then the spacer can go on. With these extended wheel studs, it's going to be very hard to use the OEM wheel nuts. They are simply going to bottom out on the end of the stud before they actually clamp the wheel down. The same with the internal drive tuner nuts. It's going to push the tuner key out of the centre before it clamps the wheel down. So I'm having to change design of wheel nut. I've gone for some lightweight steel through nuts from Epman, and because they're through nut, no matter how big your spacer or your wheel, that stud isn't going to bottom out on anything. So let's get a wheel on here and make sure it all works. Well, I've miscalculated. I actually needed a 10mm spacer rather than a 6mm spacer, and it's taken the paint off my calipers. Luckily, they need repainting anyway. So I need to change that 6mm spacer out for a 10mm spacer, but I don't have one of those at the minute. But I have got the facilities with these new ARP studs to fit a bigger spacer. So that is some ARP wheel studs fitted to the front of the Mark II Turbo. I may do the rears at some point, but they're not essential just yet. But that's all for this video. As per usual, like, comment, share and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.